The dark story of Aurora. In the land of dawn, the first time that people heard the name Aurora can be traced back to the last millennium, 1,000 years ago. At that time, the land of dawn was nearing the end of a convulsive period. The forces of darkness were recovering from the shadows, and the once great ancient Armenian Empire was surrounded by danger. As one of the strongest mages in the history of the Land of Dawn, Aurora not only possessed an unparalleled mastery of ice magic but was also an oracle able to foretell future threats. At this time, mutations started spreading all throughout the Land of Dawn, and rumors of the return of the Abyss began to spread as well. Only the icy northern veil still enjoyed its peace and harmony. Yet, Aurora knew well that the threat to the northern veil would not come from the abyss but from the sea in an alien realm. The space-time rift above the frozen seas was like a long and narrow red scar spanning the sky. It had existed for many millennia after the Ancient One's use of the Twilight Orb led to an explosion. No one could approach it and no one knew where it led to. Only Aurora watched it constantly, on guard against an otherworldly threat. Just as almost everyone had forgotten about the rift, disaster struck. Through the rift, Zask the Swarm King led his enormous swarm of mutant insects to the Land of Dawn, blotting out the sky. The bloodthirsty and sadistic race was one that traveled between the universes, destroying civilization after civilization. The swarm's arrival brought a calamity upon the Northern Vale. Countless villages and tribes were annihilated by the insects, uprooting the people from their lands. Although the Monian Empire was on the verge of collapse, it still had heroes who would stand forth in times of crisis. The Empire sent an army to the north, and the knights led by young Tobias fought valiantly against Zask. However, knowing nothing about these alien creatures with their spines and razor claws, the Empire's army suffered heavy losses and in just a few days were stripped, consisting only of Tobias and a small troop of survivors who were holding out in the heavy snow. By this time, Zask had already conquered majority of Northern Vale. Once Tobias felt all of the Monian plain would be under threat from the swarm, Zask led his flood-like swarm to attack the Imperial Knights, aiming to be rid of this final remaining threat. Within an endless sea of insects, Tobias and his men waged an arduous battle. Then at a crucial moment, Aurora arrived, wielding an enormous blizzard. The powerful gales and freezing winds decimated the alien swarm. With Aurora's help, the Imperial Knights rallied and drove back the swarm's assault. Aurora's arrival was like the break of dawn into darkness, giving them all hope and strength. Led by Aurora, the Imperial Knights and the people of Northern Vale began their counterattack. Aurora's glistening ice magic dealt blow after grievous blow against the swarm, allowing humanity to reclaim its lands. Fighting side by side again and again, the like-minded Tobias and Aurora fell in love. To Aurora, choosing love meant that losing the immortality that her ice magic gave her. Yet eternal life paled in comparison to true love. The loves promised each other that, after Zask was defeated, the two of them would be married in Northern Vale and spend the rest of their lives together there. Working together, their army managed to annihilate most of the occupying insects, retaking all of the Northern Vale. On the powerful and evil Swarm King, Zask remained. During the final battle, Zask summoned swarms of insects that poured constantly over the land from every direction, whittling away at mankind's strength and preventing their approach. Facing this endless swarm, Tobias charged headfirst into the sea of insects to clear a path for Aurora to reach Zask in spite of her protests. The final showdown had begun. But Aurora and Zask were evenly matched, and their battle was long and furious. At the last moment, Aurora focused all her power into her left hand, summoning a blade of frost that pierced Zask's torso, but lost her hand in the process. The all-consuming swarm retreated, and the heavily wounded Zask fled back to Castia with Aurora's arm still within his body to await his next opportunity to strike. Aurora returned from her victory, only to discover that her beloved Tobias had sacrificed his life in the battle. At that moment, grief and sorrow engulfed Aurora. All alone now in the world, her mind began to contort. She abandoned herself to the agony of her loss, becoming paranoid and volatile. When the dust had settled, the Magic Academy called upon Aurora to return and take up the post of headmaster. And, as per Monian tradition, the fallen Tobias was to be returned to the Lightborn capital, where he would receive his final rites in the Hall of Valor. To the now changed Aurora, however, all these seemed to be aiming at separating her from Tobias, and she would never allow her lover to leave her side again. She declined to return to the Magic Academy, and summoned a terrible blizzard that swept the Imperial Knights camp away, after which she retrieved her lover's body. After that, no one ever saw or heard of Aurora and Tobias again, other than in the legends of ice magic. And on the isolated Queen's Peak, Aurora guards her lover, looking forward to the day when she might find a way to revive him, while watching the space-time rift, awaiting a chance to take revenge upon Zask. Please do not forget to like, share and subscribe Clefformation channel. Also, click the notification bell for latest updates.